Let me know if you can hear me in the comments. We're back in the studio. We're about to get ready to read the Biblioteca. My wife is in her squeaky leather jacket.
I don't move too much so you guys can't hear it.
The devil is a chump. God is glorious. All right, you guys. So let me pray because I'm probably about to start yapping before we read. Heavenly Father, thank you for this video. Thank you for bringing people to view it. People that want to read the Bible along with us. Lord, let your spirit be upon us. Let it be among us, Father, for understanding, so we can have our eyes to see and our ears to hear and our heart, Father God, to understand what it is that you are revealing to us through your word and your expectation from us and the wisdom and mysteries we can uncover and draw from reading your word in Jesus' almighty name. Amen.
Amen.
So, man, you guys, we did the revival study yesterday. They freaking blocked. Swallowed my spit wrong. They blocked our broadcast. So I had to go and clip something out. Well, it says because we played a specific video or audio, and whoever owns the audio, I was reading it, they don't let people use the audio in their own videos. And you know, this is a revival study. We're Christians, so we're playing Christian music. And so some Christian artists copyrighted it. So interesting here. I never had that happen when we played Dappy T Keys. Free plug. But yeah, that happened. And then my super glue got messed up. The super glue got all over the top. And now I can't open it unless I pry it open. I'm not about to do that. I don't have time for all of that. But this is not here to complain, so to speak. But I had to go and clip it. And that's what YouTube is doing right now, is rendering a new clip of the revival study on my channel. It's also on Rotimi's channel. Last time I checked, I could still watch it on Cole Ministries YouTube. So that might be where you guys can watch, while mine is currently blocked, but nevertheless. And another thing about it with the revival study, I cannot figure out for the life of me why the video quality is so bad now. Like, we have peak cameras, top tier cameras, and the video quality just projects like 720p. And I mean, my only guess could be is because we're using the shared space, so we're not on our own Wi-Fi. And because we're not on our own Wi-Fi and everybody else is sharing it, there's not a lot of bandwidth, and that comes along with the actual computer you're using and processing all this other stuff. But yeah, whatever. If anybody wants to donate a Wi-Fi, secure Wi-Fi network, DM me. Serious inquiries only. But why is God good, Jade?
He's just good. We're sitting here.
You don't have
We're
any
on live.
You don't have any reasons why God is good?
Yeah. I mean, at the Bible study last night.
You just found out God is good yesterday at the Bible study?
No. You said give me an example.
Okay.
So I'm giving you an example. People were healed last night. People were delivered.
Somebody got delivered?
Delivered from like things.
What things?
I didn't talk to them, but you could tell. People had breakthrough.
Call them out. Who was it specifically?
That new lady. I don't know her name.
A new lady?
Yeah, that mom with her child. She was singing.
She was singing?
Yeah, she started singing after or Timmy prayed for her. And then yeah, his uncle, his shoulder got healed, which is really cool. We just got back from West Palm Beach from Ted Shuttlesworth. That was amazing. Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm gonna change up the lighting here today. It's not bad. It's not bad. They were sisters.
Kind of makes her skin look nice.
You called her her mom. That was her sister, Jade.
Really?
He just said so. He just called that lady old. Now, if she ever wanted to.
Well, they're Hispanic, right? So they have like children very far apart.
The red. Nah, I'll do yellow today, cause this yellow chicken. But you guys, we just got out of 2 Samuel chapter 14, and man, So, a little backstory before we get started with chapter 15 today. Or did we only read chapter 13?
We only read 13.
No. Because the woman, yeah, we're in 15 today.
Oh.
So, we all know the story with David and Bathsheba. He saw a baddie. He's supposed to be somewhere else, and he wasn't there. And long story short, when you aren't where you're supposed to be, you're going to do things that you're not supposed to do. I'll say it this way. You'll be tempted to do things that you are not supposed to do. That's exactly what happened with David, and that's why David had sex with Bathsheba, and then David tried to cover it up.
I just got it off Shein, that's why. But I've been wanting one, but it is kind of noisy, so I won't move. Continue.
I don't have anything to say about her jacket.
Oh, you know what?
Her name was Bathsheba, you're right. If that was today, actually never mind, because I'll just stay on that train. But after he basically killed her husband and took her as a wife because she was also pregnant. Let me see if I double up on my mics today. After she did that, this is like wearing two watches. Two mics. If we made a clip, if I said something profound enough to make a clip, and people saw I had two DJI mics on, they'd be like, this guy know how to use those things? But here. They lost the baby. And I just want to get to the point where Nathan, the prophet who was kind of like the prophet during the time of David's rule after Samuel, not that he did anything major, but he was a respected prophet enough that he comes up multiple times. Nathan walks up to David. Nathan being the prophet, David being the king. And Nathan tells him a little parable. David thinks he's talking about a real situation. And it was a parable speaking about how unrighteous David acted. And so David then realizes from that, well, Nathan has to blatantly tell him, you're the unrighteous man in this made up story that I just told you. And so a part of that revelation is that now God has to judge David for these actions. And Nathan pronounces that what God is going to do, he's going to lose the baby, and there is going to be a sword in David's house that will not be removed, all right, because David killed Uriah with the sword, quote unquote. You made her take it off, bro.
It's not. If I need to talk, I'll just pick it up anyway. I don't really need it on.
So let's get in the anointing. Okay. So what we see from this, literally the next chapter, after the whole thing, David's son, one of David's sons, because David has like 8 wives, but you could do that back then. But David's son ends up raping his sister. And then that sister's direct brother that shared the same mom finds out about it and spends 2 years plotting, like Batman with prep time, plotting on how to kill or get back at this brother. And he wanted to kill him. And so after 2 years, comes up with this whole shenanigans. He's like, oh, I got a party. I got some, I don't even remember what he said. Sheep shearers. I didn't research what that means, but they went and celebrated his sheep shearers. And so at this thing, he basically kills the brother that raped his sister. And this is all within David's household. And I want to bring this up because we see what transpires from 2 Samuel 14 and 15 to be the fulfillment of this sword that is going to remain in David's house. And so staying on the line of things, you have to meditate on something. And that's something that I want you guys to meditate on is as you're living your life is keeping hold of the vision. The vision, not the vision, the vision. Because if you lose sight of the vision, the Bible says you're going to cast off restraints. And so when David was not where he was supposed to be, he cast off restraints and he ends up doing something that he's not supposed to do, which is so wicked, right? And then he goes and continues on in wickedness and makes it even more wicked, trying to cover up the sin that he did. And his punishment for that is that now his children are going to suffer for David's sins. And all this stuff could have been avoided if David just was where he was supposed to be. But because of that, the devil has a place in David's house now. Think of it that way. The sword that's in David's house is now the devil has a place in David's household. And we see in the next chapter, after chapter 13, after chapter 13, chapter 14, the devil's acting amongst David's children, even amongst his own family members, because the son that did the raping was influenced by his cousin, who was, I forget what the cousin's name was, but it was a wise cousin of David's older brother's son. And he goes and influences Amnon to go and do this thing. And then now there's all this retribution, there's all this division in David's house. And the son that did it, his name was Absalom. And Absalom kind of went and he fled, but they just brought him back. And so we're picking up in chapter 15. We'll see how this story progresses. And I haven't read this in a minute, but just keep in mind, all this stuff happens because the father decided not to do what he's supposed to do. And this is what's come upon the household because of it. So let me share this screen and we'll read. Clear my throat. Yeah. JD, you want to read today?
No.
All right.
I'll eat or read.
Then you have to put your mic back on. Forget what the haters say, even if their name starts with an R and ends with an I. So to our many viewers right now, we're reading in 2 Samuel 15, verse 1. Now it came about after this that Absalom provided for himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run ahead of him. And so this is happening because Absalom got brought back into the kingdom, and David didn't see Absalom, or they didn't see each other face to face, father and son, for 2 years. So Absalom goes and burned down somebody's property just so he can get, just so he can go and see his father, pretty much. Excuse me.
You need some water?
Yeah, I do need some water. Thanks. It's that man I had earlier. It's kind of stuck in my throat.
The what you had earlier?
Your hair is on this.
Oh.
Trying to choke me some more? Thank you. There we go. Yeah. Sorry.
You haven't talked all day, have you?
No. All right, so what are we talking about? Actually, let me go back in 14 real quick and read how it ended. Joab, Farsi, and blah, gesture, now then, so when Joab came to the king and told him he summoned Absalom. Okay. So Absalom was summoned to the king's court, king being his father David, and then it just picks up in verse 1 of chapter 15. Now it came about after this, so Absalom finally sees David again. It says that Absalom provided for himself a chariot and horses and 50 men to run ahead of him. And Absalom used to rise early and stand beside the road to the gate. And when any man who had a lawsuit that was come to before the king for judgment, Absalom would call out to him and say, "For what city are you?" And he would say, "Your servant is from one of the tribes of Israel." Then Absalom would say to him, "See, your claims are good and right, but you have no one to listen to you on the part of the king." Moreover, Absalom would say, "Oh, that someone would appoint me judge in the land, that every man who had a lawsuit or claim could come to me, and I would give him justice." So check this out. So there's people that are coming to see the king to basically get the king's judgment on a matter, and Absalom standing in the way of that. Oh man, that joke was so funny, bro. In the comments. And so people are coming to seek the king for judgment, and Absalom comes and he starts talking like, "Man, you know, the king's busy. I mean, you don't really have anybody to come and help you do that. But if I was in charge, you know, if that was me, if I could do something about it, man, I surely would." You know, when you watch a TV show and like a girl's boyfriend's treating her bad or something along those lines, and it's that one guy friend who was like, "I'd never treat you like that. You know, if that was me, he should treat you better." Plotting, all right? So that's kind of what Absalom's doing right now. He's saying, "I would give him justice." And he's defaming David now. And this is what he's doing every day, early in the morning. You guys are seeking the king. It's like, if I was king, I'd help you guys out. It says, verse 5, "And wherever or whenever a man approached to prostrate himself before him, he would put out his hand and take hold of him and kiss him. So now Absalom is being a butt kisser. Anyway, verse 6, Absalom dealt this way with all Israel who came to the king for judgment. So Absalom stole the hearts of the people of Israel. So he started sucking up to the people. He started glazing. That's what we would call it today. Absalom started glazing, and you see what happened? He stole the hearts of the people of Israel. From who, though?
What do you mean?
Who did he steal the hearts of the people from?
The king?
There you go. Great answer. That's exactly what happened.
Oh, I thought you meant like what people, like who?
Oh, my bad. You mean it's right here next.
Israel. Oh.
So verse 7 says, now it came about at the end of the 4 years that Absalom said to the king, please let me go and pay my vow, which I have made to the Lord in Hebron. For your servant made a vow while I was living in Geshur in Elram, saying, if the Lord will indeed bring me back to Jerusalem, I will serve the Lord. The king said to him, go in peace. So he got up and went to Hebron. So Hebron is or Geshur is where Absalom fled to after he killed his brother. That's where he lived for 2 years. Was it 2 years? I forget. But I know they didn't talk for 2 years. And so now, he's just been plotting. He steals the heart of the people of Israel, and then he goes and tells his dad. He says he's been pleading for this for 4 years. So you see, he couldn't just come and go as he pleased anymore. So he had to keep asking the king, hey, could you let me go back? Could you let me go back? Because I made a vow to the Lord in Hebron. That's like me lying to somebody and be like, hey, I got to go and move this place because I made a vow to the Lord. And so he's trying to get out of doing something so you can go do something else. I don't know. He's just lying. This is a wise guy, though, but let me just keep reading.
Wait, why is he trying to leave?
Or that's what we're about to find out. That's why I couldn't finish explaining it because I just have to read it. So he says to his dad, I need to go back to this place because I made a vow to the Lord that if he would bring me back to Jerusalem, I would serve him. So the king said to him, go in peace. So he got up and went to Hebron. It says in verse 10, but Absalom sent spies throughout the tribes of Israel, saying, as soon as you hear the sound of the trumpet, then you shall say, Absalom is king in Hebron. So this is what he actually wanted to get permission to leave for. So he couldn't just go because it's like, oh, why is he leaving? After, he has a bad reputation with the rulers and the authorities and his family, so to speak. So he had to figure out how could he leave without any suspicion, to go and send spies throughout the land to basically proclaim that Absalom is king. And so now David has his own son trying to usurp him. So in verse 11, it says, then 200 men went with Absalom from Jerusalem who were invited and went innocently, for they did not know anything. And so now he's coerced, or he hasn't even coerced these people or anything like that. He just took them and they don't even know what they're going for. He just has a large group of people with him, and this is what he's plotting to do this entire time. And so the people have an alibi. Verse 12 says, and Absalom sent for Ahithophel, the Gilonite, David's counselor from his city Gilo. It says, while he was offering the sacrifices, and the conspiracy was strong, for the people continually increased with Absalom. So something doesn't look right, because the people that are with Absalom continue to increase. And so, David's in Jerusalem. Absalom, when he asked to go back to this place called Hebron, that's a place where he lived while he was away from Jerusalem after he killed his brother, right? And so the people in Hebron, they're just cool with Absalom. That's why he was able to stay there. And so now Absalom takes a bunch of people with him, and he goes back to this place, and he starts telling the people in that place, I'm king now. And so now he's gaining forces because the people in Hebron and throughout the land of Hebron, he's telling them, I'm king.
Do they not already have one?
They don't know that he's lying. And he's David's son. So they're just like, okay.
Why don't they know that?
Because they're dumb. And because they like Absalom. And then Absalom, it's like the psychological things. The more people say something, the more you believe it. It's kind of like with reviews, right? I go and I buy a product, and I trust the product that has more reviews because more people have tried it. And so Absalom took a bunch of people with him to this place, and he just starts telling them lies. I'm king now. It's not all the people in this place believe it. And what happens for the king? The king gets this, the king gets that. And so now Absalom's numbers are increasing while he's spreading this lie that's believable because enough people are spreading it. So check this out. Verse 13. Then a messenger came to David saying, the hearts of the people of Israel are with Absalom. And so check that out. I mean, this was I guess, double whammy to sound like a Beatle bop. Because before he went and started spreading the lie, he made sure the people loved him. So David said to all of his servants who were with him in Jerusalem, arise and let's flee, for otherwise none of us will escape from Absalom. Go quickly, or he will hurry and overtake us and bring disaster on us and strike the city with the edge of the sword. Then the king's servant said to the king, behold, your servants will do whatever my lord the king chooses. So the king left and all his household with him, but the king left 10 concubines behind to take care of the house. The king left and all the people with him. Is that really how this verse starts? Or did I mess it up? No, this is what it says. So they reiterate that the king leaves. And they stopped at the last house. Now all of his servants passed by beside him, and all the Kerethites and all the Pelethites and all the Gittites, 600 men who had come with him from Gath, passed by before the king. Verse 19, then the king said to, it looks like Ittai, the Gittite, why should you go with us too? Return and stay with your king. Okay, so David's speaking to a man. Why should you go with us too? Return and stay with your king. Since you are a foreigner and an exile as well, return to your own place. You came only yesterday, so should I make you wander with us today, while I go wherever I go? ? Return and take your brothers back. Mercy and truth be with you. But Ittai answered the king and said, as the Lord lives and as my lord the king lives, wherever my lord the king may be, whether for death or for life, there assuredly shall your servant be. Then David said to Ittai, verse 22, go and cross over to the brook Kidron. So Ittai the Gittite crossed over with all his men and all the little ones who were with him. While all the country was weeping with a loud voice, all the people were crossing over. The king was also crossing over the brook Kidron, and all the people were crossing over toward the way of the wilderness. So David and all like the hundreds of people that are with him, they're sad. And they're crossing over the brook Kidron. It says, now behold, Zadok also came and all the Levites with him, carrying the ark of the covenant of God. So, okay, they got the ark, and they sat the ark down, and they set down the ark of God. And Abiathar came up until all the people had finished crossing over from the city. This is one of the sons, I think the grandson of Ahimelech, the priest that got murked by King Saul.
So now all of them are moving?
Yeah, because David's son took everything. Or, well, he has enough people with him. He's turned basically the heart of the kingdom against. That's like, let me think.
What significance does he even have? Nothing?
Who, Absalom?
Yeah.
The people loved him.
Why?
Because he was glazing the people every day for like 4 years straight. You don't get that?
Glazing?
Oh, like, that's a euphemism for another term.
Like a good thing? Like trying to like
no,
talk or like
glazing is like what you would think of like a teacher's pet.
Okay, yeah.
And so he was like acting like a teacher's pet to the people of Israel. And so the people loved him. He was like that guy that comes in to the family reunion and all the grandmas want him to hug and kiss his cheek and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And they'll do whatever for him. That was basically Absalom to everybody. And so he got so he got so loved in the sight of the people that it was like he can do no wrong. So even when he's doing wrong, it's like, well, it's Absalom. You know, he must have a good reason for it. And this wrong that Absalom's doing is taking the throne of his father. And so that was his plan for whatever reason. Any other questions?
No.
All right, and just keep in mind, all of this is literally happening because David wanted to have sex with somebody that he shouldn't have had sex with. So Zadok also came and all the Levites with him, carrying the ark of the covenant of God. And they set down the ark of God, and Abiathar came up until all the people had finished crossing over from the city. And the king said to Zadok, return the ark of God to the city, If I find favor in the sight of the Lord, then he will bring me back and show me both it and his habitation. But if he says this, I have no delight in you, then here I am, let him do to me as it seems good to him. The king also said to Zadok the priest, are you not a seer? Return, this is another word to say prophet. Return to the city in peace, and your two sons with you, your son Ahimaaz and Jonathan the son of Abiathar. See, I am going to wait at the river crossing places of the wilderness until the word comes from you to inform me. So Zadok and Abiathar returned the ark of God to Jerusalem and remained there. So all the priests are with David. Or well, all the priests wanted to go with David, and they were going to bring the ark with them. But David turned and said, no, leave the ark in the city. That's pretty much all that is, because David's trusting that God will return him to the city if he leaves the ark there. And he'll also behold the habitation or God's city again if he finds favor in God's eyes. So it's not like you're going to take the ark and just set up a new place, dwelling place for God or anything like that. It's like it belongs in Jerusalem, so keep it in Jerusalem. And I like the heart of David here, because somewhere he's still faithful that he'll return. Even though he's fleeing, somehow in his heart he's faithful that God will bring him back. And David was going up the ascent of the Mount of Olives, weeping as he went, and his head was covered, and he was walking barefoot. Then all the people who were with him each covered his own head, and they were going up weeping as they went. Now someone informed David, saying, Ahithophel is among the conspirators with Absalom. And David said, Lord, please make the advice of Ahithophel foolish. It happened as David was coming to the summit where God was worshipped, that behold, Hushai the Archite met him with his coat torn and dust on his head. And David said to him, if you go over with me, then you will become a burden to me. But if you return to the city and say to Absalom, I will be your servant, O king, even as I was your father's servant in times past. So now I will also be your servant. Then you can foil the advice of Ahithophel for me. So David's hoping that one of the conspirators against him, that's becoming an advisor to his son that's trying to take the throne, David's hoping that that guy will give the king or his son foolish advice. And then here goes a person that David can send to fulfill that. Like God answered that prayer pretty quickly, pretty much. Verse 35, it says, are Zadok and Abiathar the priests not with you there? So it shall be that whatever you hear from the king's house, you shall report to Zadok and Abiathar the priest. Behold, their two sons are there with them, Ahimaaz and Zadok's son Jonathan. Ahimaaz, Zadok's son, and Jonathan, Abiathar's son. And by them you shall send me everything that you hear. So Hushai, David's friend, came into the city, and Absalom came into Jerusalem. And so David flees. He leaves behind some people that he can come and get information from, pretty much. You with me?
Yeah, but whatever we just read is kind of confusing, but you just said.
I mean, it was a hard read. But his son is taking the throne. David flees, so there's no conflict really. And he flees with some hundreds of people, right? And so while he's leaving, he also tells certain people to just go back, because those people will still be safe. And he's going to use those people that he told to go back to basically give him espionage information, to spy on his son for him on his behalf, so that David knows what's going on still. That's pretty much it. Okay. Now when David had gone on a little beyond the summit, behold, Ziba, people keep finding him. Ziba, the servant of Mephibosheth, met him with a team of saddled donkeys, and on them were 200 loaves of bread, 100 cakes of raisins, and 100 summer fruits, and a jug of wine. Okay, I want to pause here. So even in David's, retreating, right? God is still providing for David. And so, I remember when he was doing this from King Saul. This is like the second time David has had to run away. He had to first run away with King Saul. Now he has to run away because of his son Absalom. But God kept sending people to David to help provide for him. And that's still the same God that to David before is the same God to David now in this chapter. So in verse 2, and the king said to Ziba, why do you have these? And Ziba said, the donkeys are for the king's household to ride. The bread and summer fruit are for the young men to eat. and the wine is for whoever is weary in the wilderness to drink. Then the king said, and where is your master's son? And Ziba said to the king, behold, he is staying in Jerusalem, for he said, today the house of Israel will restore the kingdom of my father to me. So the king said to Ziba, behold, all that belongs to Mephibosheth is yours. And Ziba said, I prostrate myself. May I find favor in your sight, my lord, the king. So do you remember who Mephibosheth is? Or who he's related to?
Saul?
Yes. So Mephibosheth is Jonathan's son that got paralyzed because the nurse dropped him.
Oh.
And do you remember what David did for Mephibosheth? So, this is a paralyzed man. David wanted to bless somebody from Jonathan's house so badly, right? That when he found out that Mephibosheth was still alive, he called for Mephibosheth, gave him a bunch of land, gave him a bunch of resources, gave him servants, and Mephibosheth got to eat at the king's table every day. Now, David's basically having to flee from the throne, flee from the kingdom because of his son Absalom. And this is what Mephibosheth says. Behold, it says right here in verse 3. Behold, he is staying in Jerusalem, for he said, this is what Mephibosheth said, today the house of Israel will restore the kingdom of my father to me. Who is Mephibosheth's father?
Saul.
Yes, he's a son of Saul. And so Mephibosheth is hopeful that because David has had to flee, that he's going to basically get the kingdom, or get the throne himself. And so this is what David has to say in response. All right, to Ziba, who was a servant of Mephibosheth, if that's the case, everything that belongs to him now belongs to you. And I mean, just look how people betray you. Is that a bad thing? What's a good part about that? Let me think. Just be wary about people who just don't fear the Lord and keeping them close to you and even doing things for them. Because we see Mephibosheth was just a taker. And in his heart, truly, he wanted the kingdom the entire time. So, I don't think King David was wrong in, doing what he did for him. But you see how ungrateful certain people can be. And you got to keep that in your mind. I'm being reminded of a verse in the book of John in the Gospels. Could be either one of them, to be honest. But I think it's John, where Jesus does a bunch of miracles and the people are praising him, rightly so. But Jesus is not moved by the praises of the people. Because it says because Jesus knew what was in these people's hearts. Not necessarily just sin, but that they didn't really care for him. Or what's the word? I want to bring it up, but we'll get there when we get there. But Jesus didn't let the praises of people move him because he knew these same people are going to be the ones that put me on the cross. And so he didn't let their praise, so to speak, build him up, because these are the same people that the devil's going to use to tear him down. Because, they weren't actually God-fearing just yet, because they couldn't fully believe on him. They just saw he did miracles. That was cool. They praised him. And the same people that sang Hosanna when he walked into a city were the same people screaming, crucify him at the end of the week. And so if you're going to do something, please let it be spirit-led, because certain people will do what Mephibosheth, certain people will do what the Israelites did to Jesus, betray you. But so you got to make sure everything you do is out of love. Because if you're like, man, I did all this for you and you just betrayed me, that's gonna basically put a seed of bitterness in you. And then the devil has a place in your heart now because of what somebody else did, or how you use somebody else to hurt you or try to hurt you. But if you did it out of love in the first place, then it's like you can say when they're crucifying you on the cross, forgive them, Lord, because they don't know what they do. Anyway, verse 5, when King David came to Bahurim, all right, so you remember they went over the brook Kidron. Now they're in this place called Bahurim. Behold, a man was coming out from there from the family of the house of Saul, and his name was Shimei, the son of Gera, who was coming out cursing as he came. So imagine he walked into a gas station and, a gas station person was walking out. Anyway, he also threw stones at David and all the servants of the king of David, and all the people and all their warriors were on his right and on his left. So that he threw some stones, and then basically some warriors surrounded him. This is what Shimei said when he cursed, go away, you man of bloodshed and worthless man. The Lord has brought back upon you all the bloodshed of the house of Saul, in whose place you have become king, and the Lord has handed the kingdom over to your son Absalom. So everybody knows what just happened. And behold, you are caught in your own evil, for you are a man of bloodshed. Now this is kind of true, this last part. Then Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, said to the king, why should this dead dog curse my lord the king? Now let me go over and cut off his head. But the king said, what business is of mine is yours, you son of Zeruiah? If he curses, and if the Lord has told him, curse David, then who should say, why have you done so? Then David said to Abishai and to all his servants, behold, my son who came out of my own body seeks my life. How come more now than this Benjamite? Or how much more now this Benjaminite? There we go. He says, leave him alone and let him curse, for the Lord has told him. Perhaps the Lord will look on my misery and return good to me instead of his cursing this day. So David and his men went on the road, and Shimei kept going on the hillside close beside him. And as he went, he cursed and threw stones and dirt at him. And the king and all the people who were with him arrived exhausted, and he refreshed himself there. I heard somebody preach on this. It had to be Jonathan, Pastor Jonathan. I think something happens to this guy a little further down the line. Like David remembers on his deathbed what this guy did to him here in this part.
Can you summarize it?
So David's traveling, and he ends up in a certain place where someone who knows him, and this person who knows him is also a part of the family of Saul. And so he doesn't like David. He knows Absalom usurped the throne. And so this guy is cursing at David, speaking bad stuff to David, and throwing stones and dirt at everybody. And so David's people are like, why should this guy live? Let's go kill him. And David's like, man, maybe the Lord told him to do that to me because of what I did. So if God told him to curse David, then who am I to make him stop? And so David said, just leave him alone, let him be. And they finally end up at where they were heading to. That's pretty much everything we just read. But I wanted to say, I remember on David's deathbed, he remembers what just happened. But we'll get there in a second. His name was Shimei. So verse 15, then Absalom and all the people, the men of Israel, entered Jerusalem, and Ahithophel with him. So let's pause. Now remember, Absalom took the throne. David's on the run. He took hundreds of people with him, and they're going to a safe place because his son Absalom wants to kill him, right? And so not only does Absalom want to kill David, but all the people are behind Absalom. So it's not like, man, I only know biblical references. And I can't tell you yet because you don't know them. Let me think. It's like, I can't even tell you. I don't know too much except for the Bible. Anyway, are you with me? Mm-hmm. So remember, this guy Ahithophel, he basically did like spy work for David's son. And David wants this guy to be followed. And so it's good that this guy is still with Absalom in Jerusalem. Because, all right, let me just keep reading. This is like a whole drama. Now it came about when Hushai the Archite, David's friend, came to Absalom, that Hushai said to Absalom, long live the king, long live the king. But Absalom said to Hushai, is this your loyalty to your friend? Why did you not go with your friend? So Hushai said to Absalom, no, for whoever the Lord, this people, and all the men of Israel have chosen, his I shall be, and with him I shall remain. Besides, whom should I serve? Should I not serve in the presence of his son? Just as I have served in your father's presence, so I shall serve in your presence. Then Absalom said to Ahithophel, give your advice, what should we do? And Ahithophel said to Absalom, have relations with your father's concubines, whom he has left behind to take care of the house. Then all of Israel will hear that you have made yourself repulsive to your father. The hands of all who are with you will also be strengthened. So they pitched a tent for Absalom on the roof, and Absalom had relations with his father's concubines in the sight of all Israel. Now the advice of Ahithophel, which he gave in those days, was taken as though one inquired of the word of God. So was all the advice of Ahithophel regarded by both David and Absalom. So this guy Ahithophel is the king's advisor, or a king's advisor. And he worked against David, and now he's working for Absalom. And he tells Absalom to do something repulsive. And Absalom basically listens to him. And he listens to him because this is what the Bible says about the guy. When you asked him for advice, it was as if you were asking for the word of God on the situation. That's how, that's what it says.
No, what?
This guy named Ahithophel, the people held him in such high regards that it was like if you asked him for advice, you were asking for the word of God. Like when you're going to ask a pastor for advice, that's how they felt with this guy. Like as if God was speaking to them from this guy. That they were getting the wisdom of the Lord from this guy. And so it says both David and Absalom regarded whatever this guy's advice was, because David's hearing what this guy's advising, and Absalom is actually doing what this guy's advising, which was kind of stupid. But the end of that chapter was just about how David's friend ends up being able to be in the courts of his son. And his son was kind of skeptical at first, but he ends up fine. And so now David's friend can go and report back what the heck Absalom is doing. And Absalom's only doing what Ahithophel is telling him to do. And Ahithophel is not giving him good advice. Furthermore, Ahithophel said to Absalom, "Please let me choose 12,000 men and let me set out to pursue David tonight. And I will attack him while he is weary and exhausted and startle him so that all the people who are with him will flee. Then I will strike and kill the king when he is alone. And I will bring all the people back to you. The return of everyone depends on the men or the man whom you are seeking. Then all the people will be at peace." And the plan pleased Absalom and all the elders of Israel. Nevertheless, Absalom said, "Now call Hushai the Archite also, and let's hear what he has to say." When Hushai had come to Absalom, now remember, Hushai is David's friend who's trying to work against Absalom. So Absalom is listening to his little guy, and then he says, "Let's go hear what my dad's friend has to say too." So verse 6, when Hushai had come to Absalom, Absalom said to him, "Ahithophel has proposed this plan. Should we carry out this plan? If not, say so yourself." So Hushai said to Absalom, "This time the advice that Ahithophel has given is not good." Then Hushai said, "You yourself know your father and his men, that they are warriors and they are fierce, like a bear deprived of her cubs in the field. And your father is an expert in warfare, and he will not spend the night with the people. Behold, he has now hidden himself in one of the ravines or in another place. And it will be that when he falls on them at the first attack, whoever hears it will say, 'There has been a slaughter among the people who follow Absalom.' And even the one who is valiant, whose heart is like the heart of a lion, will completely despair. For all Israel knows that your father is a mighty man, and those who are with him are valiant men. But I advise that all Israel be fully gathered to you, from Dan even to Beersheba, like the sand that is by the sea in abundance, and that you personally go into battle." So pause. Ahithophel wanted to go and fight David himself and take 12,000 men with him. I think that's what it said. Or was it 1,200? Let me go. No, it was 12,000. And so before Absalom basically listened to him, he wanted to go and get some more counsel. And so Hushai, who was a friend of David, advises him not to go up against David. Because he's saying, you know, you're going to lose, actually. And then the people's hearts are going to be in despair because you're going to lose. And it's going to be a slaughter.
Why does he want to kill him? 'Cause he wants...
Well, David's supposed to be the king, and he took the throne from David. So as long as David lives, David's a potential threat. Are you with me?
This is just a really confusing one for me. So I'm asking you questions.
Oh, no. Are you still confused? You shouldn't still be confused if I've answered all your questions so far.
Yeah, that was my question.
So are you confused still or no? That's a yes or no question.
I'm trying to see if I had any more questions. So he just wants to be king just because he wants to be king. Because he just wants to.
Well, the thing is, right? His what am I trying to say? Let's put ourselves in Absalom's shoes, right? One of your brothers rapes your sister, and the king essentially doesn't do anything about it. Nobody did anything about it for 2 years. And so now you decide, okay, I'm going to kill this guy. And after you kill him, you have to flee, right? And now you're no longer welcome in the place where you were born. And then they finally bring you back. They finally allow you to come back. And the king doesn't even show his face to you. And so how do you feel? Like, man, am I even safe here? And so now Absalom decides, you know what? I'm just going to take the throne. But this is all because the devil has now this place in David's household because of what David did to Uriah. This is all the sword that's in his house. All this is literally happening because that's the fulfillment of what God said. Now there will be a sword in your house. And it's not even that God put it there. This is just a result of sin.
I thought I heard something go vroom on my ear. Like a fly. But there's nothing there.
Okay. So let me see. Yeah, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, and Chronicles. It gets a little bit more simple when we get to Nehemiah and Esther, and then Job is complicated, and then it's back to being simple until like Limitations. But yeah, just bear with me. Just bear with me. This is all important information. The things that are happening right now literally dictate the way that Israel progresses in the future. Because this is not just like problems happening in certain families, nobody families. This is happening in the king's family. And so you see, when rulers do unrighteous things, it affects the entire kingdom. That's why, we'll get to it in Proverbs. So, where do we leave off? Verse 10, you will inevitably lose, and then everybody's heart, even the heart of the most valiant man, is going to be in despair. Verse 11, but I advise that all Israel be fully gathered to you, and you personally go into battle. And you see, the other guy wanted to go into battle on behalf of Absalom. But Hushai says, Absalom, you should actually go fight. You should gather all the people, and then you should go fight. You know why that's good?
So he might die?
Yes. Verse 12, then we will come to him in one of the places where he can be found, and we will fall on him just as the dew falls on the ground. It says, and of him and of all the people who are with him, not even one will be left. And if he withdraws into a city, then all Israel shall bring ropes to that city, and he will drag it into the valley until not even a pebble is found there, or we will drag it. Then Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than the advice of Ahithophel. For the Lord has ordained to foil the good advice of Ahithophel in order for the Lord to bring disaster on Absalom. Had ordained to foil the good advice of Ahithophel.
What's to foil?
To foil means that you mess it up.
Oh.
Not like aluminum foil. Like, you foiled my plans. So let me read this again because I didn't understand this last part. Then Absalom and all the men of Israel said, the advice of Hushai the Archite is better than Ahithophel, for the Lord had ordained to foil the good advice of Ahithophel in order. Oh, my bad. I'm still reading it as if it's quoted. So basically, verse 14, they take the advice of Hushai, David's friend. And then it tells us, this is like narration time. So we were just in, the story was going on, and now we zoom out of the story, and now the narrator speaks. This happened because the Lord had ordained to foil Ahithophel's plan. Now, Ahithophel's plan was actually a good plan because he would have fought and Absalom would have stayed back. So it doesn't really matter how it turned out because Absalom would still be alive. But we see God put words in Hushai's mouth because God wants to bring disaster on Absalom. And so he made it to look like the other guy's advice was better, even though the best plan was Ahithophel's plan. So verse 15, then Hushai said to Zadok and to Abiathar the priest. Now these are all David's like friends that are in Absalom's court that are helping David out. So the guy whose plan they went with said to the priest that liked David, this is what Ahithophel advised Absalom and the elders of Israel to do. And this is what I have advised. Now then, send a messenger quickly and tell David, saying, do not spend the night at the river crossing places of the wilderness, but by all means cross over, or else the king and all the people who are with him will be destroyed. So he's telling David, this is how you need to act, because this is how your son is going to act. So now David has a game plan because he knows his son's playbook. Right? That's pretty much what's going on. So he's telling the people to tell David this is what he needs to do, because this is how I advise Absalom to act. So verse 17, now Jonathan and Ahimaaz were staying in En-Rogel, and a female servant would go and inform them, and they would go and inform King David. So this is how they got the information to King David. They would send a female servant to inform back and forth, for they could not allow themselves to be seen entering the city. But a boy did see them, and he told Absalom. So the two of them left quickly and came to the house of a man in Bahurim, who had a well in his courtyard, and they went down into it. And the woman took a cover and spread it over the well's mouth and scattered barley meal on it so that nothing was known. Then Absalom's servants came to the woman into the house and said, where are Ahimaaz and Jonathan? And the woman said to them, they have crossed the brook of water. And when they searched and did not find them, they returned to Jerusalem. And this woman hid them. And so the people got as far as Bahurim seeking them, and they didn't find them because the woman helped them out. This is kind of like how the Rahab story went with the two spies. So verse 21, it came about after they had departed that they came out of the well and went and reported to King David. And they said to David, set out and cross over the water quickly, because this is what Ahithophel has advised against you. Then David and all the people who were with him set out and crossed the Jordan. By dawn, not even one remained who had not crossed the Jordan. And so, what am I trying to say? So the priests get caught, and now Absalom is on to something. And so they're telling David, okay, you need to act quickly, because basically Absalom's coming. Verse 23, now when Ahithophel saw that his advice had not been followed, he saddled his donkey and set out and went to his home, to his city, and set his house in order and hanged himself. So he did, and was buried in his father's grave. So this guy, I guess he was so upset that he killed himself.
This is so all over the place. Can you turn that off? My eyes are burning.
What now?
Better.
Let me do this. Is that better? Hold on. I'm going to yell too, because this guy next to me is yelling. Oh, he stopped. All right. Oh, no. Verse 24. Then David came to Mahanaim. How do you want to say it? Mahanaim. That's how Nadine would probably say it, because she could say it right.
Mahnam. It's probably
Mahnam. All right, and Absalom crossed the Jordan, he and all the men of Israel with him. So something's about to happen, right? War is about to take place. So Absalom put Amasa, in command of the army in place of Joab. Now Amasa was the son of a man whose name was Ithra the Israelite, who had relations with Abigail, the daughter of Nahash, sister of Zeruiah, Joab's mother. And Israel had Absalom camped in the land, and Israel and Absalom camped in the land of Gilead. Now keep in mind, Israel's on Absalom's side right now. most of the people of Israel. That's why it says just Israel. Now, when David had come to Mahanaim, Shobi, the son of Nahas from Rabbah, of the sons of Ammon, Machir, the son of Amiel from Lodabar, and Barzillai, the Gileadite from Rogelim. My goodness.
This whole chapter is literally, I knew this guy, I knew this guy, I knew this guy, I knew this guy's cousin. Like that episode from SpongeBob.
Yeah, this is like a Lord of the Rings
Like
story.
I'm not understanding right now. I'm going to understand, but I need help.
Well, it's just something that you got to read over and over. So, and we don't know the actual places and stuff or the significance yet, but these people came and they brought beds, basins, pottery, wheat, provision. So that's the significance there. For David and the people who are with him to eat. So the God's still providing for David through people. If you don't believe in giving, well, you're an idiot, for one. And for two, you see even the people back then believed in giving. Well, I don't give to the poor. I'm not going to give to no man. Well, these people gave it to David, and David distributed it amongst his people. So they said, the people are hungry and exhausted and thirsty in the wilderness. So basically, that's what happened. David has friends from all over. And God's causing those people to come to him and provide for them. Because David's not in the kingdom that he's supposed to be in right now, right? They're kind of like on the run. So they got to figure out how do they get what they need to get. But we see that God is doing that for them. Even still. And so this kind of proves to us that God is still, or David still has favor in God's eyes. You know what that buzzing was? It was your phone.
Oh.
Yep, about 6 minutes ago. Hold on, we got a message. Making exquisite.
Hey,
I said exquisite. All right. So then David took account of the people who were with him and appointed over them captains. Is that what it says? Commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds. Dang, they really steal the surprise element of the chapter. Now I know what happens. All right. So, you already know. You read it too. So David basically put captains and commanders in place. And David sent the people out, a third under the command of Joab, a third under the command of Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, Joab's brother, and a third under the command of Ittai the Gittite. And the king said to the people, I myself will certainly go out with you also. But the people said, you should not go out, for if we in fact, for if in fact we flee, there we go, they will not care about us. And if half of us die, they will not care about us. But you are worth 10,000 of us. Wow. So now it is better that you will be ready to help us from the city. Then the king said to them, whatever seems best to you, I will do. So the king stood beside the gate, and all the people went out by hundreds and thousands. But the king commanded Joab, Abishai, and Ittai, the three commanders, saying, deal gently with the young man Absalom for my sake. So he tells them, hey, if you see Absalom, bro, just, maybe let him live for my sake. It says, and all the people heard when the kings commanded all the commanders regarding Absalom. Then the people went out to the field against Israel, and the battle took place in the forest of Ephraim. The people of Israel were defeated there by the servants of David, which is tragic. But, the Lord was with them. And the slaughter there that day was great, 20,000 men. For the battle there was spread over the whole countryside, and the forest devoured more people that day than the sword devoured. Now Absalom encountered the servants of David. Absalom was riding on his mule, and the mule went under the branches of a massive oak. Then his head caught firmly in the oak, and he was left hanging between the sky and earth, while the mule that was under him kept going. So check that out. He got put in a freaking edit. It's such a movie scene ending for him. You get what just happened?
No, Absalom encountered something about a mule hanging.
No, read it.
His head. I thought the mule's head.
Him.
Oh.
Because you remember what it told us about Absalom, what he does once a year?
Oh, no.
Once a year, what does he do?
Something with a donkey? I don't remember you reading it.
Baby. How do you think he got caught in the branches?
Because he's on a donkey.
No, baby.
A mule.
No. Yes. But how is he staying up there? What is he hanging by?
A branch.
What part of him is caught
his
on
head?
What part of his head?
What do you mean? mean?
Baby, if I were to just go and put my head next to a branch and I just like, am I just going to stay on the branch?
If it went through your head.
Baby, how? My head? What part of his head is caught?
Does it say?
Not necessarily, so I want you to think.
What part of his head? I don't know, the
Yes.
top of his head.
What's on the top of his head, baby?
Hair?
Yes. Is that what you're saying this whole time?
No.
Okay, that's why we did what we
What
just
about his
did.
hair?
His hair got caught.
Oh.
Remember, he cuts his hair once a year and it just grows long.
I didn't remember that.
Okay. That was what was so important about that detail a couple of chapters ago.
Oh.
Absalom, he only cuts his hair once a year because it grows all long and voluptuous or whatever, right? And so man, we came back to bite him. There's a message there. Anyway, we're going to keep reading because I'm not preaching any of this. So when a certain man saw him, he informed Joab and said, "Behold, I saw Absalom hanging in an oak." What do you think he was hanging by?
Must have been his hair.
But you don't remember the detail about how he only cuts his hair once a year?
I remember that now.
Okay.
I didn't know that was the same guy. I thought that was a long time ago.
No, same guy. They gave us that detail when they were telling us that he looked good. Verse 11 says, "Then Joab said to the man who had informed him, 'So behold, you saw him. Why then did you not strike him there to the ground? And it would have been my duty to give you 10 pieces of silver and a belt.' But the man said to Joab, 'Even if I were to receive 1,000 pieces of silver in my hand, I would not put out my hand against the king's son. For in our hearing the king commanded you, Abishai and Ittai, saying, Protect the young man Absalom for me. Otherwise, if I had dealt treacherously against his life, and there is nothing hidden from the king, then you yourself would have avoided me.'" So the guy's like, stop capping. You know good and well that if I were to have killed Absalom, you would have avoided me. Then Joab said, "I will not waste time here with you." So he took 3 spears in his hand and thrust them through the heart of Absalom while he was still alive in the midst of the oak. Pause. So what does Joab do?
Kills him.
Yes. And again, this is the second time we see this. Joab disregards the heart of the king. Because there was a guy, what was his name? Well, back when Saul was alive, King Saul, Abner. King Saul, the commander of the army back under King Saul was a guy named Abner. And Abner was wise. He went to David. He made a truce, a peace treaty with David or whatever. And David let him go away in peace. But when Joab heard about it, Joab chased after the guy and killed him because that guy killed his brother. And so in that instance, Joab disregarded what David wanted. And here we see it again. Joab disregards again what David wants. That's just important because that also comes back up on David's deathbed. So Joab puts his hands on Absalom, kills him. Boom, right here. It says in verse 15, "And 10 young men who carried Joab's armor gathered around and struck Absalom and killed him." So then they just jumped him. 16, "Then Joab blew the trumpet, and the people returned from pursuing Israel, for Joab restrained the people. And they took Absalom and threw him into a deep pit in the forest and erected over him a very large pile of stones." So then they take his lifeless body, throw it down a pit, and then they throw stones on top of it. It says that all Israel fled, each to his own tent. Now Absalom in his lifetime had taken a setup for himself. Wait, heard that wrong. Now Absalom, there should be a comma right here. In his lifetime, comma, had taken and set up for himself a memorial stone, which is in the king's valley. For he said, "I have no son to continue my name." So he named the memorial stone after his own name, and it was called Absalom's monument to this day. So he didn't have any son, so there was nobody to keep the legacy of Absalom going. So he instead made a monument to himself, and they kept it up. It says, "Then Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok," remember the priest, said, "Please let me run and bring the king news that the Lord has freed him from the hand of his enemies." Now remember, David stayed in the city. And we see now why Joab convinced David to stay in the city. Because Joab knew the whole time he was going to kill Absalom. And David wouldn't like that. It says, "But Joab said to him, 'You are not the man to bring news this day.'" See, the son of Zadok wanted to go and bring the news to David, but Joab goes and says, "Chill. But you shall bring news another day. However, you shall bring no news this day, because the king's son is dead." Then Joab said to the Cushite, "Go tell the king what you have seen." So the Cushite bowed to Joab and ran. However, Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok, said once more to Joab, "But whatever happens, please let me also run after the Cushite." And Joab said, "Why would you run, my son, since you will have no messenger's reward for going?" "But whatever happens," he said, "I will run." So he said to him, "Go ahead." Then Ahimaaz ran by the way of the plain and passed by the Cushite. So boom. Joab wanted this other guy to go and deliver the news to David. And this guy's not an Israelite. And I don't know. I guess the guy probably would have died if he delivered the news. So Joab was trying to save his own skin, so to speak, and send somebody else. But what's his name? Ahimaaz was smart. He was like, "Okay, in that case, if you don't want me to go, let me at least go with the guy." But what Ahimaaz actually did was he ran past the dude who Joab sent instead, so that he could tell David the news. So now David was sitting between the two gates, and the watchman went to the roof of the gate by the wall and raised his eyes and looked, and behold, a man was running by himself. You know, when you like see a movie, somebody's coming into the kingdom, and there are people on the castle walls, and they look, and you can see them running the little trail. That's basically what happened. So the watchman called out and told the king, and the king said, "If he is by himself, there is good news in his mouth." And he came nearer and nearer. It says, "Then the watchman saw another man running, and the watchman called to the gatekeeper and said, 'Behold, another man is running by himself.' And the king said, 'This one also is bringing good news.' The watchman said, 'I think the running form of the first one is like the running of Ahimaaz, the son of Zadok.'" I don't know how he knows that, but yeah. And the king said, "This is a good man, and he is coming with good news." Then Ahimaaz called out and said to the king, "All is well." No way they changed shalom to "all is well." All right.
When it says prostrate, that means like laying on the floor.
Yeah. You lower yourself.
Oh, I thought it's like literally going like this on the floor.
I mean, it could be.
Oh.
But it's prostrate is not just lowering yourself. It's like, what is the intent behind it as well? It's to like show your submission to something. Like if you were to watch like an animal movie, and you know, like the alpha animal shows up out of the pack, and the other ones like lower their head. That's them. That's them prostrating themselves.
I see.
So where were we? All is well. Shalom. All right. And he prostrated himself before the king with his face to the ground. And he said, "Blessed is the Lord your God, who has turned over the men who raised their hands against my lord the king." But the king said, "Is it well with the young man Absalom?" Look at that. That's all he's worried about. What about Absalom? What about my son? Now remember, Joab murdered his son and then got 10 other men to murder him some more. And then they threw him down a pit. And then they threw a bunch of rocks on him. When David said, "Leave him alive." It says, "But Ahimaaz answered, 'When Joab sent the king's servant and your servant, I saw a great commotion, but I did not know what it was.' Then the king said, 'Turn aside and stand here.' So he turned aside and stood still. Then behold, the Cushite arrived, and the Cushite said, 'Let my lord the king receive good news, for the Lord has freed you this day from the hand of all who rose up against you.'" So he comes with the same message at first. Then the king said to the Cushite, "Is it well with the young man Absalom?" And the Cushite answered, "May the enemies of my lord the king and all who rise up against you for evil be like that young man." Then the king trembled and went up to the chamber over the gate and wept. And this is what he said as he walked: "My son Absalom, my son, Absalom. If only I had died instead of you, Absalom, my son, my son." Okay. We can end here, I believe. Let me see, 20? Yeah, okay, we can end here. So let's read 19 and then we're done. Oh my goodness, it's like 100 people watching. Then it was reported to Joab, behold, what is this? It's a blank.
Ah, my ankle.
So even after all that Absalom did, David didn't want him to die.
Yeah, because now he has a lot of sons, doesn't he?
Yes, but he's lost like 3 kids in the last 5 chapters.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. All because of him.
That's probably why he
maybe
said
not
that.
Amnon.
That's probably why he said that, because he's like guilty.
Yeah. He knows that this is happening because of him.
Yeah.
It says, then it was reported to Joab, behold, the king is weeping and he mourns for Absalom. So the victory that day was turned into mourning for all the people because the people heard it and said that day, the king is in mourning over his son. And the people entered. Never mind. I'm not even going to say that. And the people entered the city surreptitiously. No.
Surreptitiously.
No. It's surreptitious. Is that shiz?
Yeah. Surreptitious.
No.
Surreptitiously.
No, it's surreptitiously.
No, it's not.
Surreptitiously. That's what it. Tedious. Bro, that's a weird word. Hold on, we're gonna get to the bottom of this. Oh wait, my command. There we go. Oh, stop. I'd rather figure this out, you guys. Is it shush? I'm just trying to think of another word. She is surreptitiously. Here we go. Let's listen to it. Oh, I was right the first time.
Surreptitiously.
Yeah. You were right too. Surreptitiously. I couldn't
Which
think of any
means-
other words that has the TIOS to be like sh sound. And it means in a way that attempts to avoid notice. They just put that in there to sound like smart. They could have just said it secretively. Surreptitious. That's how you sneak around the house to get a snack when you're a kid and you know you're not supposed to because you're only supposed to have one a day. I'm not speaking from experience. All right, so, and the people enter the city surreptitiously that day, just as people who are humiliated surreptitiously flee in battle. And the king covered his face and cried. They put it twice.
I know.
I'm about to change the translation. Well, there's no reason for that. All right.
They're just trying to get all.
I did on
They're
accident.
trying to like. Never mind. It's not that funny.
Like, bro, she's not gonna sleep with you. Chill. All right. And the king covered his face and cried out with a loud voice, "My son Absalom, Absalom, my son, my son." All right. So then Joab came into the house to the king and said, "Today you have shamed all your servants." Look how Joab's talking to the king. It says, "You shamed all of your servants today who have saved your life today and the lives of your sons and daughters." Check that out. You're mourning over this one son, but you got other sons and daughters. It says, "The lives of your wives and the lives of your concubines, by loving those who hate you and by hating those who love you. For you have revealed today that commanders and servants are nothing to you. For I know today that if Absalom were alive and all of us were dead today, then it would be right as far as you are concerned. Now therefore arise, go out and speak kindly to your servants, for I swear by the Lord, if you do not go out, no man will stay with you tonight, or no man will stay the night with you. And this will be worse for you than all the misfortune that has happened to you from your youth until now." So the king got up and sat at the gate when they told all the people, saying, "Behold, the king is sitting at the gate." Then all the people came before the king. Now Israel had fled, each to his tent, and all the people were quarreling throughout the tribes of Israel, saying, "The king rescued us from the hands of our enemies and saved us from the hands of the Philistines, but now he has fled out of the land from Absalom. However, Absalom, whom we anointed over us, has died in battle. Now then, why are you silent about bringing the king back?" Then King David sent word to Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, saying, "Speak to the elders of Judah, saying, why are you the last to bring the king back to the house? Since the word of all Israel has come to the king, even to his house." So everybody knows about the outcome of the battle. They're telling basically all the people of Israel, it's time to bring David back. "Why are you, my brothers?" Wait, no. You are my brothers, you are my bone and my flesh. Why then should you be the last to bring back the king? And say to Amasa, are you not my bone and my flesh? May God do so to me, and more so, if you will not be commander of the army for me continually in place of Joab. So the priests that David left behind are convincing the people, all right, it's time to bring David back. Why are y'all, still tripping about this? Absalom's dead. Yes, y'all anointed Absalom, but Absalom's dead, so it's time to bring David back. So verse 14, he turned the hearts of all the men of Judah as one man, so that they sent word to the king, saying, return you and all your servants. The king then returned and came as far as the Jordan, and the men of Judah came to Gilgal in order to go to meet the king, to escort the king across the Jordan. Then Shimei, the son of Gera, remember what Shimei did? That was the guy that was throwing rocks. The Benjaminite, who was from Bahurim, hurried and came down with the men of Judah to meet King David. And there were 1,000 men of Judah. Oh my goodness, why am I doing that? There were 1,000 men of Benjamin with him, and Ziba, the servant of the house of Saul, and his 15 sons and his 20 servants with him. And they rushed to the Jordan before the king. Then they crossed the shallow places repeatedly to bring over the king's household and to do what was good in his sight. And Shimei, the son of Gera, fell down before the king as he was about to cross the Jordan. And he said to the king, may my lord not consider me guilty, nor call to mind what your servant did wrong on the day when my lord the king went out from Jerusalem, so that the king would take it to heart. So he's asking for forgiveness. Like, hey, remember when I was throwing rocks and dirt at you and cursing you out? Hey, man, it's just water under the bridge, right? For your servant knows that I have sinned. So behold, I have come today, the first of all the house of Joseph, to go down to meet my lord the king. But Abishai, the son of Zeruiah, responded, should Shimei not be put to death for this, the fact that he cursed the Lord's anointed? Look at that. That's what's supposed to happen when you curse God's anointed. Anyway, David then said, what is there between you and me, you sons of Zeruiah, that you should be an adversary to me today? Should anyone be put to death in Israel today? For do I not know that I am king over Israel today? David loves asking rhetorical questions. And that's like his main response to everybody. Why didn't you fear touching the Lord's anointed? Like,
I feel like, isn't that how God talks?
Yeah, that's why I'm about to start talking. All right, anyway. So the king said to Shimei, you shall not die. The king also swore to him. Then Mephibosheth, the grandson of Saul, came down to meet the king, but he had neither tended to his feet, nor trimmed his mustache, nor washed his clothes since the day the king departed until the day he came home in peace. And it was when he came from Jerusalem to meet the king that the king said to him, why did you not go with me, Mephibosheth? So he said, my lord the king, my servant betrayed me. For your servant said, I will saddle the donkey for myself so that I may ride on it and go with the king, since your servant cannot walk. Furthermore, he has slandered your servant to my lord the king, but my lord the king is like the angel of God. Therefore, do what is good in your sight. For all my father's household was only people worthy of death to my lord the king. Yet you place your servant among those who ate at your own table. So what right do I still have that I should complain any more to the king? So the king said to him, why do you still speak of your affairs? I have decided you and Ziba shall divide the land. And Mephibosheth said to the king, let him even take it all, since my lord the king has come safely to his own house. So I got to take back everything I said about Mephibosheth. The guy lied on him. So now what I said about Mephibosheth should be said about Ziba. I know you don't really understand that. Anyway, now Barzillai, the Gileadite, had come down from Rogelim. I think this is one of the guys that brought them like provisions when they were about to go to war. And he went on to the Jordan with the king to escort him over the Jordan. Now Barzillai was very old, 80 years old, in fact. So look, if you say 80 is not old, that's not what the Bible says. You're very old if you're 80 years old. That's not me. That's what the Bible says. Right here, this is biblical proof that if you're 80, you are very old. Because the Bible says it right here. Okay. In 2 Samuel 19, verse 32. Barzillai was very old, 80 years old, in fact. All right. So get that. All right. Stop calling yourself young. Okay, anyway. And he had provided the king food while he stayed in Mahanaim, for he was a very great man. So check it out though. Still very great. So he's very old, but also very great. So the king said to Barzillai, you cross over with me, and I will provide you food in Jerusalem with me. But Barzillai said to the king, how long do I still have to live that I should go up with the king to Jerusalem? I am now 80 years old. Can I distinguish between good and bad? Or can your servant taste what I eat or what I drink? Or can I still hear the voice of men and women singing? Why then should your servant be an added burden to my lord the king? Your servant would merely cross over the Jordan with the king. So why should the king compensate me with this reward? Please let your servant return so that I may die in my own city near the grave of my father and my mother. However, here is your servant Chimham. What a crazy name. Chimham.
Sounds like some.
Or maybe it's Chimham.
That sounds like some dish you would have on Christmas time or something.
Chimham and eggnog. And a side of
Sounds like chimney and ham.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking chin though.
Something you'd find in a Dr. Seuss green eggs and.
This H is definitely silent. It's Chimham.
Chimham.
Like Chimham. Kimmum. Maybe it's Kimmum. Like kibble. Anyway, so the guy's like, here, take this person instead. Let him cross over with my lord the king and do for him what is good in your sight. And the king answered, Chimham or Kimmum shall cross over with me, and I will do for him what is good in your sight, and whatever you require of me, I will do for you. All the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed too. So remember, they crossed over the brook Kidron to get out of there. Now the Jordan, they're crossing back over to go back into Jerusalem. So David's returning. People are getting rewarded, and it's like after you go on a quest, and then you complete the quest, now everybody gets their reward, and people go back home.
Like the game we play.
Yep. So all the people crossed over the Jordan, and the king crossed too. The king then kissed Barzillai and blessed him, and he returned to his place. Now the king went on to Gilgal, and Kimmum went on with him, and all the people of Judah, and also half the people of Israel accompanied the king. And behold, all the men of Israel came to the king and said to the king, Why have our brothers, the men of Judah, abducted abducted you and brought the king and his household and all David's men with him over the Jordan? It says, then all the men of Judah answered the men of Israel, because the king is a close relative to us. Why then are you angry about this matter? David's from the tribe of Judah. So have we eaten at all at the king's expense, or has anything been taken for us? But the men of Israel answered to the men of Judah and said, we have 10 parts in the king. Therefore, we also have more claim on David than you. Wow. Why then did you treat us with contempt? It says, was it not our advice first to bring back our king? Yet the words of the men of Judah were harsher than the words of the men of Israel. Wait. Can I end there? Yeah, I can't end there. We gotta finish this story. All right, stick with me. Verse 1 of chapter 20. There's not many chapters left on the thing. So now a worthless man, this is continuing last chapter. This is immediately after the last verse. Now a worthless man happened to be there whose name was Sheba, the son of Bichri, a Benjaminite, and he blew the trumpet and said, a lot of men of Benjamin are worthless. That's not me. That's the Bible. The guy that threw stones was a Benjaminite. King Saul was a Benjaminite. And now this guy named Sheba, he blew the trumpet and said, we have no share in David, nor do we have an inheritance in the son of Jesse. Every man to his tent, Israel. He's like, it's time to go home. Y'all still talking about this worthless guy? Let's get out of here. So all the men of Israel withdrew from following David and followed Sheba, the son of Bichri. But the men of Judah remained loyal to their king from the Jordan even to Jerusalem. Then David came to his house in Jerusalem, and the king took the 10 women, the concubines whom he had left behind to take care of the house, and he put them in custody and provided them with food, but did not have relations with them. So they were locked up until the day of their death, living as widows. Now the king said to Amasa, summon the men of Judah for me within 3 days, and be present there yourself. So Amasa went to summon the men of Judah, but he was delayed longer than the set time which he had designated for him. And David said to Abishai, now Sheba the son of Bichri will do us more harm than Absalom. Take your Lord's servants and pursue him, so that he does not find for himself fortified cities and escape from our sight. So Joab's men went out after him, along with the Kerethites, the Pelethites, and all the warriors, and they left Jerusalem to pursue Sheba the son of Bichri. When they were at the large stone which is in Gibeon, Amasa came to meet them. Now Joab was dressed in his military attire, and over it, right here, over it he had a belt with a sword in its sheath strapped on at his waist. All right. And as he went forward, it fell out. So he had a sword, but it fell out. And Joab said to Amasa, is it going well for you, my brother? And Joab took hold of Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. Wait, not really. He took hold of Amasa by the beard with his right hand to kiss him. All right, you guys see the next part. Wait, let's go back. Amasa, oh, yeah. Amasa was on Absalom's side. So I'm pretty sure Joab remembers that. Joab is the king of get back. Like Joab, if this was modern day, Joab would have been from O Block in Chicago. Okay. It says, but Amasa was not on guard against the sword, which was in Joab's hand. So Joab dropped his sword on purpose. And then when he goes to greet this guy, he murders him. He's like, oh, sorry, man. Just knife in your neck. All right, there we go. So, but Amasa was not on guard against the sword, which was in Joab's hand, because Joab dropped it. So I was like, oh yeah, pick up your sword, bro. So he stuck him in the belly with it and spilled out his intestines on the ground and did not strike him again, and he died. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, the son of Bichri. Now, this happened because Amasa was helping Absalom. All right. Then Joab and his brother Abishai pursued Sheba, the son of Bichri. Now one of Joab's young men stood by him and said, whoever favors Joab and whoever is for David, follow Joab. But Amasa was wallowing in his own blood in the middle of the road. And when the men saw that all the people stood still, and when the man saw that all the people stood still, he removed Amasa from the road to the field and threw a garment over him when he saw that everyone who came by him stood still. Okay. So after Joab spilled out all of his guts, all the people were shook. And this guy was like, okay, let's go. We're going with Joab. Joab's pursuing. Let's run. Let's go. And then the people are still standing there looking at the guy with his intestines spilling out of his belly. So the guy literally takes the guy whose intestines are out, takes him over to the side of the road, pushes him down, and then puts a blanket over him. And that is where we get modesty calls from. I'm kidding. Anyway, but Amasa was wallowing his own blood. Yeah. So they removed him from the road, threw a garment over him when he saw that everyone who came by him stood still. All right, let's pick up in verse 13. As soon as he was removed from the road, all the men went on after Joab to pursue Sheba, the son of Bichri. They were in shock. Have you ever seen somebody with their guts spilling out? Neither. Now he went on through all the tribes of Israel to Abel, that is Beth Makkah, and all the Berites. I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, but be right, you guys. Be righteous. Amen. And they assembled and went after him as well. And they came and besieged him in Abel Beth Makkah, and they built up an assault ramp against the city. So remember, they're on a pursuit of this guy named Sheba, because Sheba turned another part of Israel against David. And David wants that guy to get clapped. All right, so they're besieging the city. Right here it says, and it stood against the outer rampart, and all the people who were with Joab were wreaking destruction in order to topple the wall. Then a wise woman called out from the city, listen, please tell Joab, come here that I may speak with you. So he approached her, and the woman said, are you Joab? And he answered, I am. Then she said to him, listen to the words of your slave. And he said, I'm listening. Then she spoke, saying, in the past they used to say, they will undoubtedly ask advice at Abel. And this is how they ended a dispute. She says, I am one of those who are ready for peace and faithful in Israel. You are trying to destroy a city, even a mother in Israel. Why would you swallow up the inheritance of the Lord? Joab replied, far be it from me that I would consume or destroy. Such is not the case, but a man from the hill country of Ephraim, Sheba the son of Bichri by name, has raised his hand against King David. Only turn him over, and I will depart from the city. And the woman said to Joab, behold, his head will be thrown over the wall to you. I said that backwards, but yes, that's exactly what she says. Then the woman wisely came to all the people, and they cut off the head of Sheba the son of Bichri and threw it to Joab. So Joab and the people, they end up at this city because this is the city that Sheba is hiding in. And the people don't want to die because it looks like they're trying to protect Sheba from Joab. But a lady talks to Joab and she's like, what the heck is going on? Why are you doing all this? And Joab was like, well, you guys have Sheba. She's like, well, no. We don't have Sheba. You know, we're not protecting him. Sheba's just here. Tell you what, how about we give him over to you and you can just end all of this? And that's exactly what happens. They cut off Sheba's head and they throw it to Joab. So verse 22, she went wisely with all the people and they cut off the head of Sheba, the son of Bichri, and threw it to Joab. So he blew the trumpet and they were dispersed from the city, each to his tent. That just means they went home. Joab also returned to the king at Jerusalem. Now Joab was in command of the entire army of Israel, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, was over the Cherethites and the Pelethites. It says, and Adoram was over the forced labor, and Jehoshaphat the son of Ahilud was the secretary. And Sheva was scribe, and Zadok and Abiathar were priests. Ira the Jairite also was a priest to David. So this ends just like how it ended when David became king. These people were in office. This was his like cabinet right here. If he was a president, this would be called his cabinet. All right, so yeah, we can end here. That ends all of the Absalom revolution, rebellion arc. All right, you guys, we'll be back for season 2 later. We got to talk to the studio so they can get some more animation funds, and we'll have that out to you. We'll get it animated by what's an animation studio for anime? We'll get it animated by Studio Bones, and then we'll get this to you guys. All right, anyway, we can stop here. We got from chapter 15 to 21. Thank you guys for watching, whoever is watching. All 100 of you? Wow. Oh, yeah, we did yellow today.
Yeah.
Or greenish. We even talked over people next door for fun. But, let me see. So, thank you guys for watching.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, we'll be back with you next time. We got our voice activated lights.
That's how God said, let there be light. That's all you gotta do.
All right. Go enjoy this Georgia weather. It's beautiful outside today.
Brr. It's cold.
It's not even as cold as it's going to get.
This is the coldest I felt it since I moved here.
It's going to get so cold that when you get in the car, you're like, turn on the heat. I don't want you to say anything. Stop talking to me. Just turn the heat on.
Good thing I have a lot of winter clothes.
I want to keep going, but there's stuff to do. Because I didn't really learn anything, so to speak, about like life lessons. It's just like development of just stories.
People's problems turning into more problems, turning into more problems,
Yo,
turning into death.
All this stuff happened in David's house.
He wasn't lying when he said the sword will be in his house.
Yeah, so be where you're supposed to be, do what you're supposed to do. And always remember, when you stray from the path you're supposed to be on, you inevitably will make decisions that God never intended for you to make. And then the outcome will be consequences that you were